It's a sports betting spotlight on college football week 8. We're here at the all-new Book at the Link with handicapper Kelly Stewart at Kelly in Vegas and sportsbook director John Lukasik. We'll give you 3 picks, including our best bet. They're all best bets, Kelly. And I have to apologize to you, Kelly, last week. I thought I was singing your praises. You had back-to-back 3-0 weeks. I was trying to promote your money line parlay that you hit the week before. And in the process, I totally jinxed you, apparently. I promise I will never praise you again if you don't want me to.
Todd the Mush.
Not for me. I won 3-0 somehow. You went 0-3.
Well, I didn't want to use my phone.
And we had some technical difficulties. You're going to have to look at his phone for some notes.
I have to use my phone, unfortunately, this week for notes, but that's okay. We're going to win some serious money. Time for a bounce back. Arizona State plus 6.5 here. Listen, I'm getting almost a touchdown against one of the worst turnover margin teams in the country, the USC Trojans. I will take it. Not to mention Herm Edwards has been working really hard on that defense, and they've been really tough to throw against as of late. And as you guys know, what is USC's claim to fame? Throwing the ball downfield. If they are forced to go to the run here, they are not going to win this game. Look for turnovers and mistakes. Some big defensive keys are going to be in favor of the Sun Devils.
You play to win the game.
You play to win the game. You get the W here. Next, I like Iowa plus 6.5. I said last week that this Penn State team might not have a lot left after losing to Sparty, and I was right. They barely got past Indiana. I don't think they're going to get so lucky this week. This Iowa Hawkeyes defense is number 3. Yes. God, I hate reading off this phone. This Iowa Hawkeyes defense is 3rd ranked in the country, covered 6 of their last 7. I think they go into Happy Valley and get out with the W.
All right, John, what do you think?
I got Appalachian State minus 8.5 at Georgia Southern. Appalachian State snuck into the top 25, ranked 25 right now. They're led by quarterback Zach Thomas. They boast one of the nation's best defenses and offenses in yards per game. 19th in rushing yards against, which is going to come into play here. If you remember, their only losses against Penn State week 1, they were actually winning that game, and Penn State needed a late touchdown to take that game into overtime. Really interesting, Georgia Southern, they've attempted only 52 passes all year, 31 completions to 12 different receivers. They have 22 rushing touchdowns. That's almost as many rushing touchdowns as completions, which I think is one of the most absurd stats. App State here easily. UMass minus 4 Connecticut. So UConn is yielding the most yards per game in the entire nation, right? The second most, Oregon State, 541 per game. UConn, 651. That means UConn is giving up 110 more yards per game than the next worst team. 51.4 points against. This is pretty ridiculous. Receiver Andy Isabella on Massachusetts, leading the nation with 1,013 receiving yards. I see him tearing this up and setting record numbers this week.
All right, App State and UMass. You got the obscure games covered. I'll take the hit and go with a couple of high-profile games. Clemson by 16.5 at Florida State. Clemson's revving up their offense for the CFP title run. 104-10, their last 2 opponents they've outscored. 41-7 over previously unbeaten NC State last week, dominated. It coincides with Trevor Lawrence, the true freshman quarterback, taking over as starter. To get their offense revved up at a high level is their only chance to beat Alabama in the national title game if they end up meeting there. And Clemson 5-1 against the spread. ACC games. Florida State's on 2-9 spread slide in conference games. And this is the last batch of games before the first CFP rankings come out next week. And look for Clemson to try to impress the voters, flex their muscles in this one. Also love Iowa State laying 3.5 at home over Texas Tech. I don't know if this is the trap game, Kelly, but they're coming off a bye, and they beat 2 top 25 teams back-to-back before the bye, Oklahoma State, and dominated West Virginia, a game you had before the bye. And now they're at home laying a small price against a Texas Tech team they beat the last 2 years by a combined score of 97-23, 66-10 at home in 2016, 31-13 last year. I'll settle for a 4-point win here. And now we'll go on to best bets. Kelly, if you can read your notes or remember them, who's your best bet?
It's just technology problems. What are you going to do? All right, guys, I'm going back to the well with my favorite Wildcats team. That is the Northwestern Wildcats. I love this team catching points. And why? They only won by 3 points last week at Rutgers. The week before that, they barely got past Nebraska, their stock is low again. It is time to buy. This team plays up to their level of competition. This week they get to play number 20, Wisconsin, who I have not been high on all season. Give me the 6.5 points. I don't even know if the Wildcats will need this one. I think they get the W over the Badgers.
All right, look for maybe a money line parlay if you want. I'm not saying anything. I don't want to jinx you. John, who's your best bet?
I have Purdue +2 at Michigan State, yet another road team. You take away that win against Penn State, MSU's beat Central Michigan, Indiana, and Utah State. Lost against Arizona State and Northwestern. And here's what I'm wondering, preseason, they were kind of talking about Brian Lewerke as a dark horse Heisman candidate. 7 games, 650 yards, only 8 touchdowns and 7 interceptions.
The horse.
Absolutely. Purdue's lost some really close games early on, and after those first 3 losses, they're actually 4-0. They've been looking great, including that huge win against Ohio State last week. Rondell Moore lighting teams up at receiver, 7 touchdowns to go along with 728 yards. He's the guy that's real short, about 5'7", that squats 600 pounds. They always show that video of him. The only thing that kind of bothers me here is that it's going to be a pretty close game. The kicker for Purdue, Spencer Evans, he hasn't made from over 40 yards this year. His longest is 38, so that kind of scares me. But I think Purdue's going to be all right in this one.
All right. Washington State, the Cougars coming off a huge win over Oregon, one of their biggest wins in school history. ESPN Game Day crew there. And now the tough thing to do is to go on the road to a Stanford team. It's getting a couple of extra days of rest after a Thursday night win over Arizona State. And it's just kind of a situational play here. Tough spot. Washington State's arguably the hottest team in the country against the spread, but it sets up as a really good spot for Stanford here, laying only 3 at home, going with the Cardinals, my best bet. That's our Spotlight, College Football Week 8.